Alrighty. Looks like everything's coming through okay. Sweet. Good evening, everybody. Everybody who's hanging out with me live. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Let's see. Whoops. Need to get that going. All right. So, the plan for this evening is to do Lore Equals Gameplay episode 24. If this is your first time catching Lore Equals Gameplay, it's where I go through. I usually do it at least, or I try to do it once a month, where the main thing I cover is the Galactapedia updates, because that's the lore updates that we get right now. Most of the articles that come out on Tuesday are reposts from Jump Point and other locations. So I don't rehash those just because a lot of people have read them. It's not new lore, and they don't seem, from the ones that I have read, they don't seem to have been updated or changed since they were first released. But the Galactapedia, when the narrative team goes through and adds these articles to the Galactapedia, there are updates and there are changes, and most of them are fairly subtle, but it's good to keep an eye on things and see where they're going, because a lot of times they will expand on or continue the theme from when you're looking at the star systems. They'll expand on and continue the theme that they originally laid out from those star systems, and they'll flesh it out a little bit better, add a few things here and there, change some language. But most people aren't aware that the star systems had great big lore articles written about them years ago. And so you can check those out. All those are still available. You can also check out the Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy series on the Star Citizen YouTube, where the narrative team members go through those articles and do what I do and look at the Ark Starmap to sort of contextualize everything geographically within the Star Citizen universe. Yeah, it's something I enjoy doing because I think it's important to be aware of the lore and think about things ahead of time in terms of, okay, what is CIG trying to create in terms of like an ecosystem of star systems, and why do they differ? Why do they do things the way that they do? What gameplay implications might they have? And so, yeah, it's just a fun thing to do. Before we get started, Nazarus and I are going to be doing the Pathfinders podcast tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on twitch.tv/tree0311. It'll be episode 68. We're almost to the magic number. And so we're going to be covering the roadmap roundup from last Wednesday. And because the roadmap roundup added modularity and the Retaliator Gold Standard to the release view for 3.23, and it says targeting a .x patch, which means it'll be Invictus launch week. Guaranteed, since it's the Retaliator. So we're going to cover the roadmap roundup. We're going to do a Spectrum Pulse looking at the Retaliator and its gold standard work and where modularity has come over the years, and what the blockers were, and why they're now doing it. And then I've put together a list of all the ships that are known to be modular or have had modularity mentioned in their descriptions. There's only a handful of ships that have had their modules actually concepted and sold after that. So we'll take a look at that list and we'll talk about those things. And some of them I don't think, even though they were mentioned and talked about being modular years ago, I think it was more just design language in terms of like in reality they'd be modular, but in game and the way they've been sold, they turned into variants like the Cutlass and the Freelancer. I don't think those are ever going to be modular. But other ships haven't had modules designed for them, like the Caterpillar, but were heavily advertised and talked about as being modular. And the cargo sections being modular, and then there's ships like the Retaliator, the Endeavor, the Galaxy that had modules sold, actually concepted and sold, and then you even have ships like the Vanguard and the Avenger, which are supposed to be modular and still intended to be modular, and you buy the modules and like the battlefield upgrade kits for the Vanguard. But they also sold those modules as variants in separate ships. So there's sort of like 4 subcategories of modularity. So yeah, we'll be talking about that. And then I also am putting together a scanner anomaly. Sorry, I have dessert, so I'll be eating my dessert as we talk. I'm putting together a scanner anomaly on, it's kind of speculation, but it's pulling some things together as to why I think that the quantum simulation, the development for it was put on hold. And so we're going to look at some things related to what they've told us about the quantum simulation in the past, and then some related work. And we're going to sort of, sorry if you can hear my kid screaming in the background, it's because it's bedtime and he doesn't want to go to bed. We had a very fun day, and he doesn't want the fun to end. Oh dear. But yeah, so we'll take a look at the quantum simulation and what about it is tied to other aspects of Star Citizen's development that are going to need more ongoing development and more resources that is preventing the continued development of the quantum simulation. That way we can sort of understand, okay, what are the reasons that CIG might have? Obviously, none of it's confirmed because they just told us that basically it was on hold for other things that need to be brought in the game and for it to work, but they never specified what those were. So we're going to talk about those things, or what I think those things probably are based off of what they've told us about quantum and other mechanics. So without further ado, let's go ahead and switch windows, and we'll get into Lore Equals Gameplay, episode 24. Got to do the one with the right background. Got to have my... Here we go. So I sort of jokingly half RP this as if I'm a student at university, at one of the universities in the Retor system in Star Citizen, and I'm reading through the latest update to the Ark, and the Ark in Star Citizen is this big space station in the Tayak system that's basically like the Library of Alexandria, and it was where after the Mezzers were deposed, the UEE, as sort of like an olive branch, made this station and declassified a whole bunch of stuff from the Mezzer era as sort of an olive branch to the other species to say, hey, we are opening the books, no more secrets. There's still plenty of secrets. But we want to earn your trust. And so this is going to be a place where anyone, any species can come and learn and have access to this information. And it's where we as different species and empires can share information. And it's sort of like a neutral space. But I like to read this as if, they just updated the Galactapedia at the Ark, and, they send out a, sort of like an update post, via Spectrum, which is like the internet in the Star Citizen universe. And I'm reading it in the university library, as you can see behind me. And I've got the Lords of Lore in the Star Citizen community behind me. Jail, Algrid, and of course, Paul, the Astropub Shelley. So, welcome to this month's Galactapedia Update Roundup. This month, visit the Tiber and Caliban system. That's why I was really excited to do this episode, because the Tiber and Caliban systems are really interesting, and they are where I want to go. And we'll explain why here in a bit. And get to know how the Banu Protectorate is operated. Join the Spectrum thread for any discussion or feedback. Before we get going, let's take a look at the Spectrum thread. So this is also cross-posted on a Spectrum where people can comment and provide feedback. And usually, there's some interesting things in terms of the timeline. But let's see. Yeah, this Brixie person is very, very into the lore. All about the timeline. Interesting. But no replies. Sometimes Sherry, who's the archivist, will reply and make corrections or stuff like that. Whoops. Uh-oh. The star map didn't load. Refresh. I should have checked that beforehand. You better work. Oh, don't you do this to me. You will close the tab. And we'll reopen it. There we go. Alrighty. So let's get started with the full-length article. There's always one full-length article and then a bunch of short articles. And the short articles are usually they'll cover 2, sometimes 3 star systems. And then a lot of times at the very end, they'll talk about a few notable characters in the Star Citizen lore, maybe some vehicles, but it looks like it's all Tiber and Caliban tonight. So that's interesting. So let's read about the Banu Protectorate. But first, another bite of cake and ice cream. So, the Banu Protectorate is an allied coalition of planet states and city-states, some based in Banu flotillas. So there's multiple of these flotillas out in space in various systems that make up the Banu-controlled territory. So the UEE is made up of planet states. So a system can be controlled by the UEE, but it can have planets that aren't represented in the UEE Senate because in order to be represented, you have to apply for representative status, and it's usually based off of population and how much it contributes to the empire. Blah blah blah. So being a system being a part of the UEE doesn't necessarily mean that the planets are represented in the Senate. But you can have systems that have multiple planets that have their own representation in the Senate. Terra has multiple planets, I think, that are represented in the Senate. There's several systems that have multiple inhabited worlds that have representation. And so the Banu Protectorate is similar in that they have planet states, just like the UEE does. And then city states, and those city states could have essentially they could be saying that there could be multiple city states on a planet, just like in the UEE. In the UEE, a planet will have representation, but you can have multiple nation states on a planet, further subdividing the governance. But as far as I know, if I'm remembering correctly, a planet is represented as a whole to the Senate, not the individual nation states. Whereas in the Banu Protectorate, you can have multiple city states on a planet that are part, allied within the Banu Protectorate. And some of those city states are even the Banu flotillas, which are basically a whole mess of interconnected ships. Sometimes, some permanent, some not. With that are just supposedly pretty massive. That's one thing that I think will be really interesting to see how CIG tackles is building the new flotillas in game and making them work. A governmental body called the Protectorate or the Protectorate Council, made up of hundreds of individual Banu, hundreds. I'm sure that doesn't have issues. Maintains connections between Banu systems and manages high-level administrative tasks. Suli from across Banu space can be called to convene in the Baka system. Suli are basically the leaders of individual Sulis within the Banu Protectorate. To convene in the Baka system and join the Protectorate in debating issues that affect the Banu as a whole in an event known as the Gathering. The Banu Protectorate maintains friendly trade relations with most known spacefaring civilizations. They even trade with the Vandul on a limited basis, on occasion, but it's certainly not a normal thing. Apologies if you can hear the mic picking up me chewing. It's good cake, though. So, history. Because the Banu do not keep historical records, it is unclear when in their history they formed the Protectorate. The earliest known iteration of the Banu Protectorate was encountered in Standard Earth year 1924 in the Trice system, or Trice system. So one thing that's really weird to me, and this has never been changed, so I assume it's intended, because I've asked about it, no one ever replied. Here's the Trice system, or Trice system. You can see down here Stanton, and so to sort of stellar north is the north and east is the Xi'an Empire. These are Xi'an systems. Here's the Trice system, Banu controlled. It's a Banu holy system.
Part of the crew.
Oh, follow.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Thank you so much for the follow, Jengaloth. I really appreciate the support. Thanks for coming and hanging out this evening. So why do the Banu have a holy system and their only Banu-controlled system way over here on the complete opposite side of the UEE from where their other systems are? How does that work? And how were they crossing back and forth all that time without bumping into humanity? To me, that's a mystery. So yeah. Glad you enjoy it. I do this. I generally do lore equals gameplay at least once a month, sometimes more often if there's more lore things. Like when the Lore Makers community questions came out a few weeks ago, I did a lore equals gameplay on that because that's always a good bit of information. Those come out quarterly. But we haven't had a new Tuesday lore piece in a while. Upon Banu Xi'an first contact. So when we finally established friendly relations with the Xi'an, apparently they told us that they first made contact with the Banu in 1924. At that time, the Banu had already settled in multiple planetary systems and were utilizing the Protectorate Council and the Gathering as a method of large-scale management. The Banu Protectorate has continued to operate in the same manner since that time. Given the current consensus among xenoanthropologists that the Banu people are originally from the ocean world, Bacchus II, it is speculated that the earliest form of the Banu Protectorate emerged based on alliances between the small island nations that make up the majority of land on that planet. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so we read about Bacchus II, I think it was in the last Galactapedia update. Interesting system, but it's interesting that there are multiple island nations on the planet of Bacchus, which is believed to be the Banu homeworld. But even the Banu don't know if it's their homeworld or not. They don't keep records. So, government. Each planet state and city state within the Banu Protectorate is governed by one or more political and bureaucratic sulis that plan the tasks needed to keep their locales operating smoothly, and then execute them by forming contracts with sulis that perform said tasks. Hey, Aether369, good to see you. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Oh, don't worry about being late. No worries, man. All good. Oh, hold on. Before we continue, I have to plug. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So, my side project is I am doing the world building and writing and all that for a game I'm hoping to design or pitch to a developer to learn how to design called Give Them Hope. And so there's 3 parts in that series on my YouTube where I do the world building for that, go over the timeline that I've created, talk about the universe and the game mechanics that are associated with it. But I have an artist who's working with me to develop the concept art for your hero ship in the game, which is the AMS Alliance Marines ship NASA. And so his name is Mustang 6. He's a Star Citizen backer. He is in the Soul Provisions org with another content creator named Solus. So I'm going to drop the link to his Twitch in chat. So if you are interested in something like that, he's actually streaming right now working on the concept art. And so if you would show him some support, give him a follow, check out the work that he's doing, tell him I said hi. I'm helping him work on his stream and all the layout stuff with OBS. But he's doing good work and it's been a lot of fun. So give that a check it out. And then on my I don't have that command in my YouTube. It's youtube.com/@treear. It's @tree0311. Right. And that's the link to my YouTube, and on there is where you can check out the episodes of the Give Them Hope, which is the working name for the game. So, sorry, little distraction. So let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah. These include energy production and distribution, water service, sewage processing, road maintenance, garbage collection, and many others. Compensated for their work via a complex system involving bartering combined with monetary payment, these sulis hold a great deal of power and are known to withdraw their services if they encounter unfavorable conditions. Conversely, if they gain a reputation for operating in bad faith, they may face retaliation from other sulis. Although there are some truly independent groups of Banu that operate in their own unique manners, this method of governance is the most common one used in the Banu Protectorate. So a suli is basically like a family business, and it's essentially a family business, and these family businesses specialize in like one thing, because that's something the Banu are all about is doing things really well. It doesn't have to be a super important thing, but they're all about tradecraft. When I say tradecraft, I mean like being really good at your trade, at your craft, excelling in something. But a suli will be an entire, almost like a Banu house that is oriented around this one line of business, this trade. So continuing. Similar to the Sulis that operate planet states, the Protectorate Council takes care of the tasks necessary to keep Banu society functional from the top down. These include the distribution of shared currency, the management of intercivilization trade, the negotiation of treaties, and other ministerial activity. Banu who want a seat on the Protectorate must purchase it directly from their predecessors. In some cases, they are handpicked for purchase of the seat, usually from among the non-Protectorate affiliated Esosuli who attend the gathering. The most successful members of the Protectorate are those who know how to balance the pursuit of their own agenda with the necessity of working with others to achieve a common goal. Pardon me. Another bite of cake and ice cream. Bear with me. I have a sweet tooth. I can't help it. So, last paragraph. Yeah, the cake and ice cream, the great equalizer. Yeah, the our live-in nanny just moved in this last weekend. So thank you, Jesus, making my life a whole lot easier. But it was her birthday the other week, and so we had a little birthday gathering with her and some of her friends as a sort of a welcome to our house. So the gathering is the most important political event in the Banu Protectorate. Generally held on an as-needed basis, it tends to occur 2 or 3 times per standard Earth year. So it'd be like having the Senate in session. Although sometimes multiple years can pass between meetings. Issues that will affect the entirety of the Banu Protectorate are presented and debated at gatherings, such as the valuation of their shared currency, the renegotiation of trade agreements, the reassessment of laws and customs, the state of the Banu Protectorate's borders, and others. Grievances between Sulis are also aired. The airing of grievances. It's a Seinfeld joke. And resolved in the interest of preventing armed conflict from breaking out between the planets and city-states. Because that would be bad for business. So this is... it's good that this article came out after we looked at the Banu systems in recent months. Because this is, like, there's a lot more lore around the Banu, but this is basically the gist of the Banu. The basics of how the Banu government, the Protectorate, works. Not Banu culture so much, but the Banu Protectorate. And so knowing this information will most likely benefit you if you choose to do business with the Banu, or in particular with the Banu Protectorate, as well as operate in their within their borders. It's one thing that's going to be really interesting is because the Banu Protectorate is a coalition of planet states and city states. Your reputation, managing your reputation with the Banu, is probably going to be challenging, because it'll be one thing to have a good reputation with the Banu Protectorate, but these different Sulis and the nation states and city states are not all that they are allied, but they are not necessarily. That doesn't mean they are all getting along. And so balancing your reputation between Sulis, especially if they are rival or competing Sulis, as well as between competing states and nation states, will probably present some challenges and will affect your ability to do business and be profitable and sustainable in Banu space. Pardon me. So, a good idea to be aware of how the Banu Protectorate operates and how all these things are connected in order to prevent having to dig yourself out of a reputation hole. Because a reputation is the great equalizer and the great currency of Star Citizen, far more than just UEC. So that is the Banu. Let's read about the Tiber system, and then after that we'll get to Caliban. You'll be able to change your mind regularly, as they don't seem to be into long-term memory. They don't keep records. They don't keep written records, but they do pass things down verbally. So there is that. And it's things that they think are important. A process of how to do a task. They don't keep historical records. So the Tiber system is right here. It is a previously human-held system. There are 4 systems that were previously human-held that have been conquered by the Vanduul. The first one to be conquered was Orion, and then Tiber and Virgil several decades after. And then Caliban was in 2884. So if it's 2954 now, so 54 plus 16, so 70 years ago is when Caliban fell. And it's important. I think it's important to take note that, and the Vanduul also attacked and tried to conquer Vega with a kingship in 2945. I think it's important to take note of the fact that Orion, Tiber, Virgil, Vega, all connected by large jump points. But when I think it was in Tiber, during the siege of Tiber, which is a fairly long siege, a long protracted battle. At one point, the Vanduul did bring in reinforcements from the vector system via a previously unknown jump point. But I think it's important that each one of these systems fell ultimately when a kingship finally was brought into play. Caliban as well, but as far as we know, there aren't any large jump points on the Caliban, in Caliban. But the story around Caliban is that somehow the Vanduul were able to sneak past our sensors into the Caliban system, which was lightly defended. And yes, it's also said that those sensors were poorly maintained, but they were still able to sneak a kingship into the system and wipe the floor with us. So I think it's very likely that there is a undiscovered large jump point in the Caliban system. But since then, they did attack Oberon, which they could have done from Virgil, or they attacked Oberon not with a kingship, but multiple capital ships. And so they could have definitely attacked Oberon from Virgil. But they only have medium jump points. Coming out of Caliban to Oberon, Orion, and Viking, and it's only a small jump point into the Null system. So that's part of the reason that I think that the Vanduul have not progressed down this direction, is because they can only send probably small ships through this small jump point here. And that's probably why they wanted to take Oberon, and so they could bring some capital ships. They wouldn't be like the largest ones, probably not a kingship because it's a medium jump point, but they would be able to, from Oberon, take this large jump point. So go from Virgil to Oberon to then to Null and to human held systems down here. Because we don't know much about the Vanguard system. So just to keep that in mind, the majority of the Vanduul conflict that we know of has taken place in this area. And we're going to read out to those systems right now. Before we get in there, though, here's the Tiber system. Here's Stanton. Medium jump point from Stanton to Pyro. And then Pyro is medium to Nyx. And then Nyx goes large jump point from Nix to Bremen, Bremen, large jump point to Vega, and then Vega along this line. So yeah, let's read about the Tiber system. Error, how dare you? Oh, so the Tiber system says it's only 1 AU. I don't think that's correct. I think that's due to change that they just never set up the actual size. But let's go ahead and get in there. I mean, it could be a very small system, but I kind of doubt it. Hold on one sec. I had to finish my cake and ice cream. So, the Tiber system is a planetary system in Vandal territory and was formerly a part of the UEE. Discovered in 2474 during Project Farstar, it was a sparsely populated mining system until 2681, when the destruction of Dell Township in the neighboring system of Orion sparked a period of rapid military buildup. In 2732, the Vandal launched a mass invasion on Tiber. A years-long siege followed that lasted until 2736, 4 years, when UEE forces abandoned the system. It is now home to vast encampments of Vandal. So the Vandal have a large permanent presence there. They are nomadic, but they do establish, when it suits them, they will establish a permanent presence on planets in order to control them and continue to harvest resources. So when in the lore for the Valkyrie, they talk about the reason the Valkyrie was developed was to use it in order to retake Vandal-held planets and systems in mass landings. That's why it exists. And then, if you remember, in Admiral Bishop's speech to the Senate, which is part of Squadron 42, he talks about striking back at the Vandal and retaking previously held what they call red systems. So Tiber would definitely be a target for a mass planetary landing in order to retake the planets in Tiber as part of pushing the Vandal out. So here's the Tiber system. You can see the Tiber Oberon jump point, Tiber Virgil jump point, Tiber Orion jump point, and Tiber Vector jump point. And then there's only 2 planets and a asteroid belt. So Tiber 1, technically habitable. Tiber 1 is the first planet from the sun of the Tiber system in Vandal territory. A small, dense world, it has a naturally occurring oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere with a high concentration of carbon dioxide. While the air is technically breathable, it is difficult to become accustomed to, and conditions are hot enough that few people elected to live there before the Vandal overtook the system in standard Earth year 2736. So it is technically habitable, but it is hot and there's a high concentration of carbon dioxide, which would make breathing difficult and uncomfortable. But you could definitely live there, especially with breathing apparatus, atmospheric recyclers, in enclosed spaces and all that. What it doesn't tell you is why people might have lived there. It just says few people elected to live there. But if the Vandul are said to be capable of being able to live in a vacuum, like not live in a vacuum, but like they can they can like crawl around the outside of your ship, or be in your ship when you've vented a compartment and it doesn't kill them, or at least it doesn't kill them quickly. So seemingly the Vandul would be able to live here, and this could be where their vast encampments are, that they use as probably like staging and logistics areas for their attacks against humanity. So there's Tiber 1 right in there. Tiber Belt Alpha, laced with mines. Can someone say Nautilus? The Tiber Belt Alpha is the only asteroid belt of the Tiber system. Located in Vandal territory, the densely packed belt is primarily used by the Vandal for resource extraction. Before the UEE Navy withdrew from the system, they strategically laid mines throughout the belt, increasing the danger of the already hazardous area. So, Tiber was a sparsely populated mining system until the Vandal took it, and it's a densely packed belt, so it's probably very resource rich. But not only is it dangerous because the Vandal use it for gathering resources, it's also dangerous because there are minefields throughout the system. But maybe there are very rare minerals and metals to be mined there that are there in abundance enough where it might make sense to go do mining there, because the other place, too many of the other places where those are found occurring are, maybe owned by Shubin Interstellar. They're open to freelance mining. If they tell you that they're essentially tell you that there are resources there, they're probably going to make a reason for you to go looking for those resources. And if they tell you that it's very dangerous, that's probably going to be some pretty valuable resources there. They're just going to be very difficult to get to. Yeah, unobtainium in Tiber. Yeah, very very unobtainium for sure. And it might be worthwhile to, if you're going mining there, you're setting up a mining operation and you're trying to, hide from the Vandal or protect your claim from the Vandal. It might be worthwhile to bring in your Nautilus and rearrange those minefields to benefit you. So there's the Tiber Belt Alpha, which is right in between Tiber 1 and Tiber 2. Within the green band, you can see Tiber 1 is toward the interior of the green band, which is why it's pretty hot. You can also see that all the jump points are off the ecliptic. Now, obviously, they don't have to stay there, but jump points are one of the things that are most often found off the ecliptic. So the distance from jump point to jump point to planet is not a flat, a line on a flat plane. There's an angle to it, and so the bigger the system, the bigger that distance can be. But I do not think that this is a 1 AU system. So Tomb, a bombed out wasteland. Tomb, Tiber 2, is the second planet from the sun of the Tiber system in Vandal territory, an arid desert world. It was once a sparsely settled mining colony operated by settlers from the UAE. In Standard Earth year 2734, halfway through the siege of Tiber, the Vandal broke through the UE defenses, dropped harvesters on the planet's surface, and established encampments. The Navy responded by conducting countless bombing operations that ultimately failed to evict the Vandal and left the surface of Tomb a cratered wreck. Ultimately failed to evict the Vandal, so the Vandal are still encamped there. They're still harvesting resources there. Apologies. The dogwood trees are in full bloom here, and so it's just killing my allergies of all sorts of. Ugh. Yeah. So you would think, oh, okay, well, there's a mining colony there. There's probably ground-based mining. Mining there would be super dangerous. Um, but here, what's a harvester? I'll show you in a sec. Um, but I think that if the Navy bombed the hell out of Tiber, trying to evict the Van Duel, I would be willing to bet that there are going to be bombing missions where the UEE will say, "Hey, we got sensor data from a scout that said that there's an encampment of Vandal here. It's a good target of opportunity. We're not going to send our bombers out there after them because it's too dangerous, but we'll pay you to do it." So I would not be surprised if there are opportunities for bombing on Tomb or even on Tiber 1. So here's a harvester. Let's see. Oh, it won't let me open it in another tab. Basically, it's a ground vehicle that the Vandal used to basically strip mine a planet's surface. And they basically like till up the land and suck everything in and convert it into like this resource paste that they use for building anything and everything. The Vandal version of the Rock DS. Yeah, if you can't see it, you got to zoom in right here. There's a little seat with a Vandal sitting on the outside, exposed to the elements. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what these end up looking like in game and how they end up getting used. But in general, harvesters are several stories tall and typically transported on a carrier before being deployed onto the surface of a planet, asteroid, or other body from orbit. It then digs into the ground and begins to take in resources, automatically moving as it completes strip mining an area. Once a harvester is full, they have been known to send out self-propelled pods full of processed materials to an orbiting ship, returning to space themselves to be redeployed, or can possibly convert themselves into manufacturing centers. Definitely targets of opportunity. Bomb the shit out of these things. Harvesters on Tomb, Tiber 2, have been observed using the resources they mine to manufacture additional harvesters. The mechanism by which this is done is not yet understood or has not yet been revealed to the public. But yeah, it's what the Vandal used to strip mine conquered planets. Yep. Yeah. They have used this. It isn't just strip mining the resources in the ground. It's like living matter, bodies and buildings and trees and plants and animals and all of it. But yeah, that is Tiber 2. So the Tiber system, there's not a whole lot going on here, except for that the Vandal have encampments on Tiber 2 and are strip mining it and probably strip mining Tiber 1 as well. And there's also an asteroid belt there. So to me, this is the Tiber and the Virgil system are the real Wild West of Star Citizen, because everybody's like, "Oh, Pyro, it's lawless." It's like, no, it's not really lawless. It's just it's not lawful. The the different gangs will have their own sets of rules, and the reputation system will govern how the gangs see you in Pyro. And it's essentially those gangs, and the territory they control, they're their own nations. They just don't abide by UE law. They have their own sets of rules and what they think is appropriate. But Tiber and Virgil are truly lawless, unlawful. There's only one governing body there, and it's the Vandal, and they hate everybody. There's no managing your reputation in a Vandal held system. It's just don't get caught. or if you do get caught, make sure you win the immediate engagement and then leave real fast. Yeah, it's low sec. It's gang security counts as security. It's just not the UE or some other human lawful faction. But the these Vanduul held systems, the red systems that humanity is going to try and reconquer, Virgil, Tiber, Orion, and Caliban, I absolutely guarantee you there will be missions to go in here and do different things, particularly for the UE military, undertaking, mercenary type missions that they don't want to do themselves. Hey, because they send probes in here, they send scout ships in here to keep an eye on the Vanduul, and so they, probably will send in their own strikes to hit targets of opportunity. And there have been large scale human raids into Virgil and Tiber and such that have been talked about. But you can be rest assured that if you want to build up your reputation with the UE Navy, this is where you do those high rep jobs, because they're going to be dangerous as hell. Like if you recently seen in the patch notes for Evocati for 323, how they're implementing the new flight AI and making them a lot more challenging. And the Evocati people are like, this is really hard. Like, unless you're an ace pilot, you're going to have to work for it. Well, that's like human pilots. Wait, and in like Crusader Security and Ninetales and Xenothreat. Wait until you go up against the Vanduul. I mean, and the Vanduul in a Vanduul held system. Think about it, like if you play Helldivers and you are playing on Helldive mode, you're not killing everything. You're sneaking in there to do the objective and sneaking out and trying to get out without getting caught, or if you do get caught, be able to evade and hide until you can make your getaway. Vanduul AI is just all pad rammers. Yeah. But I guarantee you that there will be probably rare, ultra rare minerals to be mined in the Tiber system, and there will be like rumors from different miners that you can follow up on and be like, oh yeah, back in my day, I worked with a miner who mined out there, and he said that there were pockets of this, and it's worth a fortune, but all the claims for it in the UE are controlled by Schubert, and so. If you want to get it, fetch you a pretty penny, but it's risky because there's mines and the Vanduul. But I'm sure that there will be targets of opportunity, whether you're doing bombing missions or ground landings. Like imagine an assassination mission for the UEE to be like, oh, okay, there's these clan leaders in this encampment. You could try and bomb it, but it's heavily guarded from the air. If you land on the planet, you could do some sort of like infiltration mission and take them down stealthily, or do a large, pardon me, do a large scale raid with a big org, and kill a whole bunch of Andul, and then make your do a fighting retreat. Like, to me, that's that high level mercenary gameplay where you've gotten bored over here in the Nexus system, fighting pirates and such, and you want to test your mettle against the Vanduul. So let's take a look at the Virgil system right here, the system from which they launched their attack on Oberon as well as on Vega, which we learned about regarding Squadron 42. Oh, sorry, we're not going to look at Virgil. My bad. I apologize. We're going to look at the Caliban system, even better. So the reason I like the Caliban system is how it fell is interesting. It's kind of a mystery how they got a kingship in there. If you subscribe to my theory crafting about kingships and such needing large jump points, and there maybe being a hidden jump point there that we don't know about. But basically the lore for the RSI Apollo follows like a series of movies, or was it TV shows? I forget, about the fall of Caliban, and these space paramedics using the Apollo to do search and rescue in Caliban as the system fell and to evacuate injured and wounded people. And that's basically like the gist of the show. And I'm like, that's super cool. That's the kind of gameplay I want. So, yeah. Before we continue, I have the window cracked open to let some air in here while it's streaming, and it's actually cooler than it needs to be. I'm going to close the window real quick. I'll be right back. Alrighty. Let's see. Where was I? Okay. So, the Caliban system. So, here's Caliban. Connected via a small jump point to Null. Null is a huge system. It's a 120 AU pirate system. I'm so excited to hear you talk about stuff. 07 Danger Oboe, good to see you. But it's also connected via medium jump points to Oberon, Orion, and Viking, which all Vandal systems here. Oberon is an unclaimed system. Null is also unclaimed, but it's a pirate-held system. Pirates and smugglers and slavers there. Oberon is basically like it's a human system. There's like a miners there, people that live on the surface of a Hoth-like world. But it's not claimed by the UE. It's a small population. So, Caliban system, right click, says it's only 6 AU. So this is more likely to be true, kind of like Stanton is 5 AU. Whereas I'm dubious about Tiber being 1 AU, because Virgil's 16, Orion is 5, Oberon is at 18 or 16, I can't tell. Viking is 1, but that's because we don't know, we haven't actually been there as far as I'm aware. We just know it exists from some sort of Vandal records, but I think, if I remember correctly. Pardon me. So, Caliban. The Caliban system is a planetary system in Vandal territory, formerly of the UEE. Officially purchased from hauler Ashley Gahn in Standard Earth Year 2341, a human-made shelter was found on Caliban 4F during the surveying process, indicating that someone had discovered the system before Gahn and had chosen to keep it a secret. So this is one of multiple systems where the original discoverers of the system didn't make it publicly known and used it to their own ends without selling the information to the UE. I did a scanner anomaly on it a while back because there's actually quite a few systems that are like this in the lore, which is ways that, to me, explorers can become rich rather than beyond just selling the locations to the UEE, but using them to their own ends for their own org. The system was rapidly developed and enjoyed steady growth until 2739, when Vandal raiding parties first appeared in the system. Years of struggle against the invading forces culminated in 2884, so like 145 years later, when an enormous Vandal clan invaded the system without warning. Without warning. How would an enormous Vandal clan invade the system without warning? Yeah, the sensor system wasn't updated, blah, blah, blah. How does an enormous Vandal system invade without warning when there isn't a large jump point? that we know of. Yeah, systems are definitely going to get there. I mean, we talked about Pyro recently, how it's changed in size. Not a lot, but it has changed. There have been multiple systems that have already gone through size changes over the years. I've talked about that on the podcast before. Some systems have gotten bigger, some have gotten smaller, some have only changed a little bit. There's all sorts of changes that have been made to the star map over the years. Happy Eclipse Monday, Black Intellect. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. So, after 2 days of fighting and an evacuation effort led by the 88th Logistics Support Squadron, the UE was forced to cede the system to the Vanduul. We even tried to retake it. We attacked, trying to retake it, but that attack was repulsed as well. So, let's see. Caliban 1, A Lonely World. Oh, let's get into the Caliban system. So it's actually a pretty full system. I mean, there's 5 planets there. One of the planets has a bunch of moons. There's an asteroid belt, multiple jump points. There's actually quite a bit going on. It's not unlike Stanton. So Caliban 1 is the first planet from the sun of the Caliban system in Vanduul territory. A small coreless world, it was rich in valuable resources that humans extracted to aid in the development of Cryon, Caliban 2. Now completely strip-mined, it is ignored by the Vanduul, who overtook the Caliban system in standard Earth year 2884. And so this is an example of one of those planets where there really isn't a reason to go there. Completely. They're saying it's completely strip mined. That you might find some little pockets here and there, but there's probably not much to find there mining wise, especially that would be worth the effort. Because even though it's ignored by the Vanduul, it might getting there would be very dangerous. But the CIG and the lore team have said that there are going to be plenty of planets that are going to be in game that don't really have a great reason to go to them, but you are going to be able to go there. It was rich in valuable resources. I think that it could still be rich. It could still have valuable resources, just not be as abundant as it was before. But because the Vanduul, don't pay attention to it, if you can get past them and you're a small independent miner, it might be worth your while, especially since Caliban is connected to Oberon and Null. So that's Caliban 1. Caliban 1 way in here, just inside the green band. Cryon, which is Caliban 2. Cryon, Caliban 2, is the second planet from the sun of the Caliban system in Vanduul territory. Located in the green band, it was terraformed by humans shortly after it was discovered in standard Earth year 2341 and turned into a thriving populous colony. In 2884, so 543 years later, right? Math? Yeah. The Vanduul invaded the Caliban system en masse, laying waste to all the settlements and killing anyone who could not evacuate. The once cosmopolitan Cryon is now a wasteland in the process of being consumed by Vanduul harvesters. Again, there's going to be Vanduul encampments there. There's the Vanduul operating harvesters there. I guarantee you, because it was a habitable world and and was heavily colonized and all that, that the UEE does pay for raids on the planet, both in terms of bombing, doing landings to take out targets of opportunity, all sorts of military targets on the planet and not far away from multiple places, from Oberon and Null to be able to take those jobs. So in the process of being consumed by Vanduul harvesters, they've been, it's an entire planet, so it can't get done overnight. You can't harvest an entire planet overnight, but it has been going on for like 60 years. right? No, 70 years. So that would be my best guess as to what sort of gameplay surrounds a planet like Cryon, and what you could do there. Bombing, mercenary missions, assassinating the Vanduul, raiding their encampments to impede their efforts, all that. So here is where'd it go? Cryon, and then here's its moon there. Well, within the middle of the green band. And Caliban 3 is out here towards the edge of the green band. You can see it's actually not that far from the jump point to Null, which is a small jump point, but it's very close to the medium jump point to the Viking system, which is a Vanduul held system. Let's see. Caliban 2A has curious craters. So this is the moon of Cryon. Caliban 2A is the sole moon of Cryon, Caliban 2, located in the Caliban system in Vanduul territory. Its yellowish surface is covered in unusual craters, which were the subject of a long-term study to determine their origin before the Vanduul overtook the Caliban system in standard Earth year 2884. So, the subject of a long-term study. Science gameplay, scanning gameplay much? Just because the Vanduul have taken the system doesn't mean the academics have given up on their science. So I would be willing to bet that there are still going to be, if the scientists and researchers and the different universities put out these sort of contracts and jobs to go scan this or place this sensor here, what have you. This would be one of the high-paying jobs, the big rep jobs, to go into a Vanduul-held system and use your scanner, which means you're going to light up like a candle, in order to scan these craters, or maybe you sneak in there and you stealthily land on the planet in order to deploy scanning devices or something else, or to take samples. But either way, this is the high-risk sample collection of Helldivers. You're going to Helldive onto the planet to collect some samples and then escape before the automatons know you're there. But that would be my bet for Caliban 2A. You can see it's right there in orbit of Cryon, home planet. Caliban 3, wasted planetary potential. Caliban 3 is the third planet from the sun of the Caliban system in Vanduul territory. When it was first discovered in standard Earth year 2341, it was deemed a non-viable terraforming candidate and left alone in favor of settling Cryon, Caliban 2. However, by the mid-29th century, so 2800s, before the Vanduul invaded and conquered, there was enough advances in technology that development was approved and terraforming started. All activity came to a halt in 2884 when the Vanduul invaded the Caliban system and wrested it from the possession of the UEE. Derelict machinery damaged in the fighting and abandoned in orbit routinely plummets to its surface. Ooh. High value salvage much? You know that terraforming machinery, those machines in orbit that they use to terraform planets. Oh my goodness. I just had a thought. What if, hold on, stick with me, guys. Let's see. Hold on, I gotta find the right scene. see, where is it? Where is it? You guys remember the scene in the Squadron 42 trailer where he's in orbit of the planet and he can see the terraforming machines? Right. What if
Come back.
Final phase of gameplay iteration before we fully transition into optimization and stability on the road to release.
Need your trail? This is Colton. Come back. Always trips me out to see terraforming setups like this. Webb tried explaining how atmosphere processors work. Really shows how far we've come. The hell is she?
With the transition of Squadron to
what if that mission takes us into the Caliban system? What if that's Caliban 3? I don't know. It could just still be an Odin. Yeah, I don't remember if there's any terraforming operations going on in Odin. I don't think there were. But maybe, what if that's like not an ongoing terraforming operation? But what if those are abandoned terraforming platforms on that planet and it's Caliban 3? I don't know. Anyway, that's just me spitballing. But so back to Caliban 3. This is to me because their terraforming had started and had probably been going on for years, if not decades. And this derelict machinery that was in orbit, I almost guarantee you that the salvage for that machinery is very valuable. And these are high value salvage contracts in order to go down and get components or certain specific pieces from these machines. And, they don't fall from the planet very often or from orbit very often. And, the Vandal are always flying around, so you can't really salvage them in orbit because they'll see you. But if you go down to the planet when they've crashed to the planet and you can find one that's intact enough, then you can salvage it and get this, valuable pieces of tech in order to sell back to someone. That would be my thought about Caliban 3 and the gameplay there. And to me, that sounds really cool. Like combat salvaging. You're going down there and you're trying to stealth your way down to the planet to then because it's probably you're probably not doing like reclaimer salvage where you are salvaging the hull or the structure or anything. You're going in and you're cutting it open in order to get to specific components and pieces of valuable technology because it's not that old. It's only 70 years old and the technology is probably still very valuable and useful and very expensive. So that would be, to me, some pretty cool gameplay is if you have to use your prowler or whatever to, stealth land onto the planet and then, use hand tools to get, certain small components out and cut them out and put them in your backpack and then, sneak off the planet or, however you want to go about doing it. But to me, that sounds like it'd be a pretty fun salvaging adventure, But you can see that Caliban 3 is out here, just towards the outer edge, more midway in the green band. And it looks like it has at least one, maybe two. Let's see. How many? It has 2 moons. So Caliban 3A, lumpy protoplanet, and Caliban 3B, porous protoplanet. Let's read about the lumpy one. Caliban 3A is the first moon from the surface of Caliban 3, Caliban system located in Vandal territory. Large and lumpy, that's me right now. In appearance, the astronomers speculate that it is the leftover nucleus of a planet that failed to coalesce into a planet. The Vandal have been observed extracting water ice from its deepest craters. Interesting. Again, this is going to be more straightforward in terms of targets and opportunities. They're extracting water. So you need to go bomb them while they're extracting water, in order to prevent them from getting the water ice and using it. But other than that, I don't see much reason to visit Caliban 3, other than, maybe you could use Caliban 3A because of its, it has these deep craters. You could use them to hide in as you're making your approach to attack Caliban 3 or to do your salvage operation there. Knowing the lay of the land is going to be important, especially if you're trying to sneak your way around in a Vandal held system. You're going to have to use use the geography and the geology in order to hide yourself, unless you're really itching for a fight. And if you're itching for that kind of fight, you better be real ready. Caliban 3b, porous protoplanet. Caliban 3b is the second moon from the surface of Caliban 3, Caliban system located in Vandal territory. Much smaller than its companion moon, it is porous, ovoid, and low in mass. It was most likely captured from the nearby Caliban Belt Alpha sometime before it was discovered by humans in standard Earth year 2341. Not much to say there. Caliban Belt Alpha, thronged with derelict space stations. Ooh. That sounds interesting. The Caliban Belt Alpha is an asteroid belt in the Caliban system, located in Vandal territory. When the Caliban system was possessed by the UEE, the belt was a hub for miners, haulers, and salvagers, and was dotted with rest stops in service of travelers. When the Vandal seized control of the system in 2884, evacuees abandoned all equipment and space stations. It is believed that the resources left behind have been harvested by the Vandal. It is believed that they have been. It doesn't mean that they have. If you think that, like, going to those derelict space stations in Pyro is interesting and kind of creepy, imagine exploring a derelict space station looking for resources and equipment in a Vandal held system where the Vandal are also exploring those derelict space stations looking for resources and equipment. Can you imagine EVAing around a corner and there's a squad of Vandal, doing their thing? Oh boy. But if it was a hub for miners, haulers, and salvagers and has multiple space stations and probably asteroid facilities there, there's probably lots to find in those abandoned stations and facilities, in terms of resources. But again, dangerous. And so if you're doing, salvaging and wreck diving and exploring and stuff like that, you'll probably get to, be able to get like hints and tips about, this station here used to do this. And I heard that this ship never made it off and it had a full load of whatever. Or they were doing this here and there should have been multiples of this. They're like, the opportunity for finding really valuable stuff and being able to get it for free other than your gas, on top of the risk, could make going to this asteroid belt really, really valuable if you want to do wreck diving and exploring for that kind of stuff, but also very risky. It's also, if it was a hub for miners, most likely there's going to be some decent mining there too. And so if you don't want to mine in a Shubin controlled claim and have to give up a portion of your profit to them or however they end up doing it, these asteroid belts and pirate systems and Vantool systems are going to be probably pretty profitable, albeit very risky. So, Caliban Belt Alpha, just outside the green band. And next we have Caliban 4 with numerous moons. Caliban 4, a gray-green giant. Green giant, ho ho ho. Caliban 4 is the fourth planet from the sun of the Caliban system in Vandal territory. A gas giant, its atmosphere is banded with voluminous clouds of silicate and iron that give the world its gray-green color. It is orbited by the wreckage of automated hydrogen harvesting platforms that were abandoned when humans fled the system during the Vandal invasion in standard Earth year 2884. Orbited by the wreckage. So salvage again. Salvage of automated hydrogen harvesting platforms. You better believe that if you need fuel in the system, you can probably go out here, and there's probably these systems might be derelict, but they probably still have stored hydrogen on board that you could use for fuel. But those platforms are also probably going to be valuable for salvage. And they're free for the taking if you're willing to take the risk. Danger hobo, I killed the chat. Make jokes, bros. Everybody's just lurking and listening, man. So let's read about the moons of Caliban 4. Caliban 4A, hypothesized to be a captured core. Oops. Come on, load. Refresh. Come on, interwebs. Don't fail me now. That's weird. Caliban 4A, 4 Alpha, is the first moon from the gas giant Caliban 4. Caliban system located in Vandal territory. Iron-rich and very dense, studies conducted on the moon have shown that it is likely older than any other celestial body in the system. Astronomers hypothesize that it is the former core of a rogue planet that was captured by the gravity of Caliban 4 on its way through the system. Oh, okay. That's how it's old. Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, so gameplay-wise, there's probably not much there other than maybe going to do some scans or take some samples for the scientists, because they're like, I'm not going to go into a Vandal held system. I'll pay someone else with this big old research endowment that I got to do it for me. So otherwise, other than that, probably not much reason to go to Caliban 4 Alpha. Let's look about Caliban 4 Beta. Caliban's most spectacular light show. Caliban 4 Beta is the second moon from the gas giant Caliban 4 Caliban system located in Vandal territory. Enveloped by a weak magnetosphere, it is encircled by a pair of auroral belts that generate shimmering red light shows when the moon's magnetic field interacts with that of Caliban 4. Uber dangerous tourism. I'd be willing to bet that people used to go here and pay to go there to watch these light shows when it was a human held system. And now I'd be willing to bet, because it's such a rare thing to see because of how dangerous it is, that you would, might be having like personnel transport missions for people to go see it. Be like, hey, I want to go see this. I don't care if it's in Vandal held territory. Take my money. Just don't get me killed. Black Intellect says, I'm not sure which system I want to have as my base. Maybe Terra, but probably somewhere that's medium security. Are you talking about like a base building type base, or like where you have a permanent hangar type base? because I don't even know if I want to have like a base building type base, but I am. Okay, center of ops. I am very interested in finding a derelict asteroid facility and basically claiming it. Obviously, I won't own it, and if someone comes along, they can steal my stuff. But if it's hidden really well, I would like to operate out of an asteroid base. Lounge on the beach, maybe somewhere that's centralized for the best cargo runs. Yeah. Um, Best cargo runs, I would say. Here we're gonna come. We're quick tangent. Um, let's see, where is it? I believe it's the Corel system, right? Yeah, low. So it's a UE system, but this is like a major trade planet because it's one of the main ways that you get into Banu territory. It's basically is a giant shipping hub on the planet of Lo. So something to think about. Okay, back to Caliban. What do you think the first 5 systems will be? Stanton, obviously, Pyro, Nyx, Odin, and Castra. That's my bet. Actually, here, I can even tell you why. Let's see. I want to, because I did a thing. I did a scanner anomaly on it. There we go. There's the link to the scanner anomaly. Let's see, when did I do that? That was over a year ago. Oh no, I did it. I re-uploaded over a year ago, so it's not quite 2 years old. But the information really hasn't changed. But that will tell you why I think the next star system after Nyx, because obviously Odin's in development for Squadron, but the next star system to be developed after Nyx, I think it's going to be Castra. Nyx is where I wouldn't call them space hippies. I think I'd call them more space commies, space socialists. I kind of want to base out of a system that can easily access Hades. Why Hades? Are you wanting to go look for the blue man? So Caliban 4B is the... Oh yeah. So dangerous tourism for Caliban 4B. That would be like the equivalent of those stupid college kids who wanted to go backpacking through Afghanistan or Pakistan or whatever it was and ended up getting killed. Danger tourism. Caliban 4C is the third moon from the gas giant Caliban 4 Caliban system located in Vanduul territory. Small and dark, its reddish-brown surface is dusted with iron oxide. The abundant presence of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere causes any iron in the dust to oxidize and appear rusty. Bright white streaks of silicate crisscross the dust. Interesting description. Not much reason to go there. Caliban 4D has a hidden ocean. How do you hide an ocean? Caliban 4D is the fourth moon from the gas giant Caliban 4 Caliban system located in Vanduul territory. Composed of silicate rock, it has a water ice crust.
What? Did we just
Oh,
become best
jeez.
friends? Yep.
That sound alert just made my heart come out of my chest. Sorry. Is that Iris Dreadtide? Just subscribed for 1 month. Thank you so much for the sub, Iris. Speaking of subs, so if you're new to the channel, new to the show, new to my content, just a reminder, I hate ads too. No worries, man. No, I appreciate the support. Just a reminder, everybody, I keep no monetization for myself from Twitch or YouTube. All money gets donated to stackup.org in its entirety. So if you hate ads and you like the content, you can subscribe, and that money doesn't go into my pocket. It goes to stackup.org, along with a little plus up from me when I get a payout. So like if I get a payout of $80, I'll match up to the next highest 50, which would be 100 with 20 of my own dollars. That's how it works. And I always post it on my Twitter and in my Discord and on the YouTube community channel. But the ad revenue as well, all that money goes to stackup.org. And if you want to learn about StackUp, you can, let's see, exclamation point in chat. Was it StackUp? That command, right? Yep, you can click the link to go to their website or their Discord. And if you want to donate directly to stackup.org, you can donate via that link that's in chat. Just put exclamation point charity and that'll pull it up. And you can donate to the donor drive. We have lofty goals for this year. I'm way behind compared to where we were last year, but that's because my streaming schedule has been way off. But I'm wearing my Stack Up Call to Arms t-shirt that I got from this last year because we raised all total nearly $2,000 between my donations from the monetization and your guys' donations as well. So if you want to support a great cause, which is helps veterans and service members, promotes good mental health and preventing PTSD through the power of gaming and gaming communities, please consider donating or just hanging out and being a part of the community and part of the conversation. Love hanging out with you guys. This is my therapy. Hanging out with y'all and talking Star Citizen, playing other games. All of it. This is what I do to keep my own mind straight. And so it's a lot of fun for me. And I appreciate you guys and I appreciate the support. So, composed of silicate rock, it is a water ice crust with a very smooth surface that completely covers a moon-wide ocean of liquid salt water. The ice is laced with dark cracks thousands of kilometers long. Dark cracks thousands of kilometers long. Most people tell me they need therapy because of me, not the other way around. Nice. So I don't know, guys. I'm coming up stumped on this. Yeah, there's water ice there. And so ice mining is supposed to be a thing. Remember the can't. But I don't think that would be lucrative enough to risk going to a Vandal Health system to do it. The dark cracks thousands of kilometers long. I got nothing. I don't think other than going to look at it or maybe doing some ice climbing. I don't know. Caliban 4D. So for Caliban 4E, a cryovolcano central. Why do these links not work? Here, you do this one. Caliban 4E is the fifth moon from the gas giant Caliban 4. Caliban system located in Vandal territory. Frigidly cold, it has a surface that is coated in mostly frozen nitrogen mixed with some water ice. It is geologically active and is covered with cryovolcanoes that spew plumes of nitrogen ice. I don't know what... bottled water. Again, I don't know why you'd want to visit some of these moons other than maybe to just look at them and see that they're there. I think it's important to note that, if we're going to be in Caliban doing whatever, like particularly high risk salvaging, and you need to hide and you need to go land on one of these moons or something, you do need to think about, okay, where, this is the plan. We're going to go here. This is what we're looking for. And this is our fallback point where we're going to go hide if the Vandal find us. And you're going to need to make sure you're equipped to be able to survive in these places. If you have to hide for a long period of time, I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. Caliban 4F. We'll just use this link because these all seem to work. Caliban 4F is the sixth moon, 6 moons, from the gas giant Caliban 4 Caliban system located in Vandal territory. Rich in carbon, it is dark in color and reflects very little light from its distant sun. Copious tholins. What is a tholin? Are a wide variety of organic compounds formed by solar, ultraviolet, or cosmic rays, or cosmic ray irradiation of. Huh. Interesting. Real deep science stuff. Copious tholins caused by millennia of ultraviolet radiation cast a reddish tint on its otherwise black surface. Interesting. Again, just interesting. Not valuable. The really valuable bits of information about Caliban are the 2 planets and the salvage opportunities there, the previously inhabited ones, the salvage opportunities around the gas giant where all the automated hydrogen scoops are, hydrogen facilities, as well as the abandoned space stations in the asteroid belt. Yeah, it could be a reason to sneak around the Vandals. Yeah, that's what using those moons to hide behind. That definitely. Yeah, but this is like, I don't know. Maybe you could go harvest the nitrogen there in that form, but nitrogen is so plentiful. I don't know why we need to go find for go to these cryovolcanoes and harvest it there. That was 4F. So Caliban 5, the last planet in the Caliban system. Caliban 5 is the outermost planet from the sun of the Caliban system in Vandal territory. A protoplanet with a craggy surface, it was considered of little value to the UEE and was therefore largely ignored. After the Vandal took the system in 2884, they began strip mining operations, leading to speculation that it must hold resources the Vandal consider desirable. That could be interesting. So, not only if they're actively strip mining there, again, we already talked about this, but targets of opportunity, disrupting those strip mining operations, targeting any settlements and such. That there would be ships in orbit that would be, especially the carriers for the harvesters. Those would be really good targets of opportunity for disrupting Vandal logistical operations. But if you can go there and get clues as to what it is that they find valuable that we didn't find valuable, that would be good intel for the UEE. To me, that seems like a special operations type mission, a stealth scanning type operation, or something of the like. That could be some pretty cool gameplay. But yeah, that is it for the Caliban system, and that is it for the Galactapedia update for March 2024. Let's back out of there. Alrighty, and let's go ahead and I'm going to switch screens, and then we will call it a night for the show, and we will find someone to raid. So if you've got someone that you think needs some support and some raiding, drop a name in chat. Aether Drift, you're right on time. That's exactly what I was about to talk about. Next Pathfinders is tomorrow night. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, but you were late. Kidding. But yeah, we are scheduled for tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern for episode Moms 308. We're going to do episode 68 of the Pathfinders podcast. We're going to look at the roadmap roundup for last Wednesday. We're going to do a Spectrum Pulse, just a review of ship modularity, looking at why it's coming now, and just basically with the sort of development process, and looking at the list of ships that are modular, because they're really broken into 4 groups of ships that have been talked about as modular. The ones that are modular, but they were also sold as variants, the Avenger and the Vanguard. The ones that are advertised as modular, but never had modules designed for them, like the Caterpillar or the Genesis Starliner. You have ships like the Endeavor, the Retaliator, and the Galaxy, which are modular and have had modules designed and sold, and not as variants. And then you have ships that have been talked about as modular, that became variants, and have never been talked about as modular ever since, like the Cuddy and the Freelancer. So it's a pretty long list of ships that are supposed to be modular or have had modularity mentioned. So we're going to be talking about that as a Spectrum Pulse. And then I'm working on a scanner anomaly, it shouldn't be too long, but we're going to look at why I think that the quantum simulation and its development were put on hold. Because that was news to us in around CitizenCon last year. And so we're going to look at a little bit of what we know about the quantum simulation and other aspects of development to try and figure it, to make some educated guesses about why quantum's development has been put on pause, and shine a little light on why that might be. Speculation supported by evidence. So take that for what you will. But that's the plan for tomorrow night, right here on twitch.tv/tree0311 at 10 p.m. Eastern. So come and hang out and join us and bring your questions. We'd love to hear from you. Of course, we'll go on multiple tangents because that's just what we do. But that's the plan. Still working on the Give Them Hope side project. So hoping to stream more about that later. And if you want to do some co-op gaming, I won't be doing Overdrive this weekend, probably because it's a drill weekend, Thursday through Sunday, but probably the following week. So if you want to do the next phase of the event, stay tuned. But yeah, let's find someone to raid. Let's see, who is playing? Is there anyone that I'm following that is streaming right now? Let's see. Oh, Popper Juggernaut is playing Star Citizen. We're going to raid Papa Juggernaut, show them some love. Oh, wait, Angry PC? Oh, yeah, Angry PC Tech has only 15, so let's go raid them. We're going to raid Angry PC Tech. Ooh, they've been streaming for a long time. Oh, my God. Okay. Start raiding now. Okay, let's send them some love. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night. Cheers, and 07.